So you may be having some trouble taking notes. You're stuck figuring out where to put them, how to organize them, and that stops you from writing. A lot of the advice out there is to not worry about it and just start writing. But you don't just stop worrying about something just because someone tells you not to worry. It's still, that worry persists until you have your concerns addressed. I used to be in this boat. That used to be me. I used to not take notes because I got stuck figuring out where to put them. And the single biggest thing that helped me just start writing was understanding that there are two types of notes. There are permanent notes that actually do need to be organized, that I do need to be able to find months, if not years later. But those are only a handful of the notes that I take. There are very few of those that are actually permanent. Most notes are transient. They're useful when I'm writing them. They're useful for a short time period after I've written them, but they're not useful in the long run. I don't need to keep them around forever, so I don't need to actually find a good place to put them. A perfect example of this is a grocery list. A grocery list is useful when you're writing things down to help you figure out what you need to buy. And it's useful when you're in the supermarket, making sure that you've bought everything that you need. But after you've made all your purchases, the grocery list has served its purpose. You don't need it anymore. You can just throw it away. Another good example of a transient note is brainstorming. Whether you're brainstorming with other people or brainstorming by yourself, you're taking notes on all these ideas. And the point of a brainstorm is to write down as many ideas as possible. They don't all have to be good ideas. It's more about doing the activity of writing down ideas and coming up with ideas in the hopes that eventually you'll come up with a handful of good ideas. But the vast majority of the things you've written down are terrible. That's the whole point of a brainstorm. And you don't need them. You don't need to keep those around, right? You just need to put the good ideas in a permanent note, and everything else can just be thrown away. And if you never come up with a good idea and you just need another brainstorming session later, then that whole note can just be thrown away. Understanding that a lot of notes are not permanent means you can just put them in a pile. Just some unsorted pile of notes that's just going to be messy that you just don't have to worry about. Because the value isn't in keeping the notes around. The value was in writing them in the first place. Understanding this was the single biggest thing that helped me overcome my mental blocks of just start writing. So now that we've talked about the difference between transient and permanent notes, how do we deal with that, and how do we write them down? Pen and paper is kind of the perfect medium for transient notes. The nice thing about pen and paper is the physical act of writing helps you think. And when you're taking transient notes, that's usually what you need is you need help thinking. The downside to pen and paper, of course, is you can't find those notes afterwards, but you don't need them, right? Like the whole point of a transient note is it's temporary. And so pen and paper is kind of the perfect medium for that, because you just write them down and then you can forget about them later. If you really like taking digital notes, most note-taking apps do facilitate a way of keeping transient notes. For example, in Evernote or in Dynomantle, there's the option of putting in a title. And so when I take notes, I leave those notes untitled. And if I decide to make those notes permanent, then I will give them a title. Because the title makes it easier to find. Any app that allows you to put titles on notes will also have some kind of autocomplete on the title and the search function. So that makes it easier to find those notes. And then for the transient notes, I just leave them untitled. They just go down in the pile in my digital note-taking app, because if I don't edit them or touch them, they just go down to the bottom, and it's only the notes that I work on recently that show up at the top of the pile. If you're paralyzed on figuring out what note-taking app to use, don't use one. You already use an app that is perfect for taking down transient notes, and that is your email, right? Your email is on every device. It's on your phone, it's on your laptop, it's on your tablet, it's on your desktop, it's everywhere. You're already used to using it. So if you don't want to sign up for another app, just open up your email, start a draft, and write the notes down. You don't have to send it to anyone. You don't have to worry about organizing it. It's just going to be in your drafts. I did this for a number of years before I started using Dynamantle, and I just have hundreds of drafts that I've never sent because they're just notes for me. And it was perfect because it's by default just in an unsorted pile somewhere that I don't have to worry about organizing. And if I do need it to be permanent for whatever reason, I can copy and paste it to another app, or I can just give it a subject and send it to myself, and then I can get an autocomplete on that subject line. So that's my biggest note-taking tip. It was the single biggest thing that helped me take notes. I hope it helps you. If it does, or if it doesn't, let me know in the comments below, and we'll start a discussion. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.